Hey guys, so in the previous tutorial we created this Rete script that you see here on the screen, and we showed how to export it and import that to StackBlitz, so imitating the workflow that you would do when creating your own website. And this time we will use Blockly editor to create the same script with exactly the same features and integrate that as well into the StackBlitz environment. So if you remember, this is the script that we've made. We created this rounded cube, right? And we exposed some inputs to it, and this is the HTML that we've created with some input for size. We did some JavaScript coding here, and currently you see that I have this inline script set to empty string. And if we just go in here, export to runner, we'll click copy and paste it here, you'll see that we get this cube. So basically, maybe it's not very interesting, but with Blockly editor, we will try to get the same exact result on the screen, and it should react to our size changes. So let's go back to having an empty string here. So if you don't really know what this code does, how the styling works, just check the previous tutorial where we talk more about that. In this tutorial, I'll just try to reproduce the same logic that we have here in Blockly. And Blockly is really a nice editor. It works alongside other editors that we provide. So here's the Rete, that example we already saw, and you code it, through connecting the wires. But in Blockly, you code more like you would write code yourself. So we will see how that works in a minute. Okay, so let's start it. Let's click here, Blockly. Now that we are in Blockly environment, we will go and we will create a cube. So we'll go to this OpenCascade category. We'll go to shapes, solid, primitives, and we'll find this cube component. If you want to draw it in Blockly editor, you'll need to find draw any async command, place it in the entity, and then hit run. And that will produce a cube on your 3D canvas. And you can change the size value, for example, and you need to then run again your script to see the difference. So basically in Rete editor, you saw that the cube adapts automatically if you change some inputs, and here in Blockly you really need to run it every time you change something, because that is not reactive editor and Rete is. So let's go further. Let's go into this runner category, and we will say that we want to get the input value from the runner called size. If you remember, here we had this size input that we implemented. So we need to get that size into our script somehow, and this is the way to do it. And now we will go into the variables section, and we will see that we want to create a variable called size, and let's assign that to whatever comes from this function. The only problem now is that the size will be undefined while we exist in this Blockly environment. To change that, I will use a logic gate. I will say that if there's not a size variable around, so if the size is not defined, then I will define it by saying set size to the math number component, and I will place this on 1, for example. And here, because we use it, we will also need to assign the size property to the size variable, and this is how we pass the actual value to the cube. And if I hit run, you'll see that the cube updates to the value that is in here. So if I hit it again, you'll see that the cube becomes larger, and this is exactly what we want. So now another thing that we will do is we will create a bit different way of drawing the cube, because we want to assign the result to the cubeMesh in order to pass it along as an output to the runner. This is exactly what we did in Rete as well. So if you remember, we had here cubeMesh property and value that we set as an output, and this is what we need to do now. So I created this cubeMesh variable here, and I will assign it to a draw output. Okay, so now that we have this component, we will also need to use a weight on it because it is a promise that is being returned here, and we want to pass the real mesh, actual mesh, and not the promise of the mesh, to the runner output. So let's do that. Let's hit this component await. Let's draw an async into it. Let's also find the fillet component that we used. So this is the fillet to round the edges of the cube. We'll drag this cube component into the shape of the fillet. We'll see that we will use 0.4 radius for fillets, and we will assign this whole thing to the cubeMesh. Now that we did this, we can go into the runner category and say that we set the runner result value called cubeMesh, and we will use the variable cubeMesh here as a value. And now if we hit run, it all works. You see that the cube is now rounded, and we can change the size to 1, and we have similar looking cube to what we had here in Rete. It's here, and we can also rotate and see how it looks like. So the only difference is that this cube is red and Rete cube is blue. So let's change that. Let's go into the draw category, find the options, this one, and then we can say that our face color will be blue, our precision will be 0.05, and the edge width will be 1. So now if we run this code, you'll see that we've created exactly same looking cube in Blockly as we did with Rete, and this gives us a possibility now to say, okay, we are ready to export to runner. Let's minify this code. Let's copy it. Let's go into the StackBlitz, find our script place. Let's paste it here. And now, voila, we have our cube here in 3D space. And we can also change its size to make it larger or make it smaller, and it all adapts. Thanks for joining this tutorial, and let's see each other in the next videos. Cheers.